It's an LP.
It's one word, yes.
War and Peace.
The Nile.
Fridge.
The Nile.
Vanity Fair.
Yes,
Elbows.
the Nile.
Sports. Huey Lewis in the News. Sports.
Sports, innit?
Huey Lewis and the News' third studio album, Sports, is not just a record, it's a cultural artifact of the 80s. Packed with hits, it catapulted the band into superstardom and cemented their place in pop rock history. But to understand Sports, we need to trace the band's journey from their humble beginnings to numerous failures as they endured making their masterpiece. Someone had requested this topic on my channel a few weeks ago, so let's talk about the album Sports. Let me know in the comments what other 80s era acts you want to see me cover. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. In addition to, of course, watching my videos and sharing my content. Huey Lewis, born Hugh Cregg III, grew up with beatnik parents in the Bay Area. His dad was a part-time radiologist with a love for jazz. From an early age, he put his son behind the drum kit and taught him to play swing music. His mother, meanwhile, also loved music, introducing her son to artists like Bob Dylan. Huey claimed his mom was one of the first hippies. She would take her son to the Fillmore, to concerts, as well as poetry readings. His mom was actually friends with the Grateful Dead's manager. Huey was a gifted student in school and an athletic kid who played baseball. His parents, however, divorced at the age of 13, and at the divorce hearing, Huey was asked by the judge what he wanted to do, but he decided he didn't want to live with either of his parents. So his dad suggested to his son that he instead go to a male prep school in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Homesick and struggling, he'd sneak off campus to smoky blues bars in the city of Trenton. Obsessed with the blues, he started learning to play harmonica. It was after finishing high school, he headed back west, and at his father's insistence, he took a year off school and bummed around Europe. It wasn't long after he found himself in Africa and Morocco, being a street performer, playing harmonica amongst snake charmers. He slowly started to realize that maybe music was his calling. Upon returning home, he attended Cornell University's engineering program and soon joined the group Slippery Elm, which played frat house parties. But by 1970, he quit college and became a musician full-time. By 1971, Huey joined the group Clover, a Bay Area band. But they lacked focus, having a variety of musical styles and multiple singers, and were turned down by virtually every American record label. But they did nab a recording contract in 1977 with British label Vertigo Records, who signed them to a 2-album deal. They soon headed across the pond to London, but British audiences and the press were not interested in what they were selling. Huey remarked to Rolling Stone that the day they arrived in London, Johnny Rotten of Sex Pistols spit in the face of an enemy reporter. He remarked, "It was the wrong place at the wrong time." Mutt Lange produced both of Clover's records, but they ultimately went nowhere. But they did connect with a budding musician, with Huey recalling. "These people we had worked with started Stiff Records, and Elvis Costello was their first hire. They needed a band for Elvis, so they stuck us with him." The members of Clover, minus Huey, played on Costello's debut record, My Aim Is True. Clover ended up breaking up by the end of the decade, and Huey had a backup plan. He wanted to start his own group, and he wanted to do something that was closer to R&B, and he wanted to front the band. It was around this time he played harmonica on the Thin Lizzy record Live and Dangerous in 1978. Almost pushing 30, he headed home to California, got together with a group of musicians who had played in the group Soundhole, who had backed Van Morrison. Using the moniker Huey Lewis and the American Express, they played Monday nights at a bar called Uncle Charlie's at a club in Corte Madera. They later used the moniker Huey Lewis and the News to avoid any future possible litigation. Their momentum was quickly shifting as they started to sell out shows within a month. The group cut a demo tape that caught the attention of veteran manager Bob Brown. Brown was taken with the group's stage show. He ended up reaching out to every American label. A&M Records, after a few minutes of listening to their demo tape, told the manager that they didn't think Lewis could sing. But Brown's enthusiasm about the band convinced Chrysalis Records to sign the group. Huey recalled, "We weren't really as good as Bob thought we were or as Bob pretended we were, and I think he simply bowled over people with his enthusiasm." By the fall of 1980, Chrysalis issued the band's self-titled debut record. It peaked just outside the official album charts at number 203. The album was a commercial failure. Huey Lewis and the News' career was hanging in the balance. Huey recalled, "I had just turned 30, I had $300 to my name, and we needed a hit, and if we didn't, we'd lose the record label, and this was really do or die." Feeling the pressure, the band convinced their label to let them self-produce their follow-up record. Lewis told Grammy.com, "In the early 80s, there was no internet, no jam bands, and album rock didn't mean anything either. All that mattered was contemporary hit radio, which was playing 23 songs, basically a playlist." He added, "If you wanted to write your own music and sing your own music and make a living, you have to have a hit single." After a long 6 months in the studio working on their follow-up album, the band, their manager, and their label felt like things were going in the wrong direction. Nobody thought that there was any hit songs on the album. So Huey reached out to an old friend of his from London, producer Mutt Lange. He was coming off the massive success of AC/DC's 1980 record Back in Black. Huey asked him if he had any songs lying around, and the producer sent him a track called We Both Believe in Love. After some tinkering with the song, it became Do You Believe in Love? The label, their management, and the band thought they finally had the hit that could break the group. Chrysalis soon financed an expensive-looking video, but Huey hated it. He recalled, "On Do You Believe in Love, we did whatever the record label told us. They hired a stylist, and we were made up to the max, and I sang to a girl who was asleep in a bed with my band. When I saw it, I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. And everybody loved it. We were producing our own records, so I said, let's do our own videos too." Do You Believe in Love peaked at number 7 on the Hot 100 chart, and the album meanwhile went gold and peaked at number 13. There were a few follow-up singles, including Hope You Love Me Like You Say You Do and Working for a Living, which had modest success.
And I hope you love me like you say I do. Working for a living, living and working. I'm taking.
According to Huey, the band broke even on the album, so there was of course a lot of pressure to have a bigger hit with their third record. But the band could feel the momentum swing because of MTV. It was while on the road touring behind the album, they found inspiration for one of their future biggest hits. It was sparked when Huey heard from people claiming that Cleveland is the best rock and roll town in America. He recalled, "I said Cleveland? I mean, in San Francisco, we have the Grateful Dead, we have Jefferson Airplane. I mean, we created the whole 60s thing. How can Cleveland be the most important? But then we played the show at the Agora Ballroom in Cleveland, and it was amazing. The crowd was amazing." After the show, while on the tour bus, Huey remarked to his bandmates, "The heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland." His band thought the line was kind of ridiculous. Huey added, "So then I rewrote it as the heart of rock and roll is still beating." But that was the original idea.
The heart of rock and roll is still beating, and for what I've seen, I believe I'm.
The band also found inspiration from other artists as well. Huey told Rolling Stone that around 1980, they heard Steely Dan's Hey 19, which was cut with the Lindrum. He remarked, "Our idea was to take the modern technologies of the day as kind of the cake, if you will, and have the icing be the saxophones and voices and old school stuff. It was the old and the new at once, but it took them a little while to get there, something we'll talk about in a bit." By late 82, the band hit the studio to work on their much anticipated third record. Little did they know they'd make history with the release. The band was single-minded in their head. Huey told Forbes, "Every song on that record was aimed at radio. Interestingly, they're all kind of sort of slightly different genres, mainly because we needed a hit record, and we didn't know if it was going to be a rocker. Here's a rocker for you, here's a ballad, here's a little bluesy thing, here's a cappella." The song Bad Is Bad was written with Huey's old group Clover at a time when he was working with Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy liked it so much they'd perform a sped-up version at their shows. Another version of Bad Is Bad appeared on Dave Edmunds' album Repeat When Necessary, which came out in 1979, and that version featured Huey on the harmonica.
Sometime bad is bad.
Meanwhile, the track I Want a New Drug came to Lewis after a night of heavy drinking during a car ride to his lawyer's office. Once he got the lyrics in his head, he asked his lawyer for a pen and paper, but it took some tweaking to finally get the song to his liking.
Wonder Woman made me sleep all day. Wonder Woman made me nervous.
The Ghostbusters theme, which came out a little bit later, shared a lot of similarities to the song, and I've actually done a whole video on the claims of plagiarism and how, in a strange twist of events, Huey Lewis was the one who got sued. The link is down below if you guys want to check it out. Nearing the end of the recording sessions, the group added the song Heart and Soul. The song was initially released by the Kentucky band Exile in 1981. They previously enjoyed success with the #1 hit Kiss You All Over in 1978, which spent a month atop the charts.
I wanna kiss you all over.
That song was written by Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin. The pair had also penned Heart and Soul, but Exile's version wasn't a huge success, peaking at number 102. Huey Lewis and the News knew Mike Chapman as they had previously had discussions about him producing one of their records, and they reached out to him to see if he had any songs sitting around. So he sent them Heart and Soul, the version that Exile cut. But Huey and company didn't know that the song had been previously released, thinking what they had received was in fact a demo. Huey recalled, "To my ears, it sounded commercial. Wow, this is a hit, let's do it." So we did that just to cover our bases. But then something strange happened. Huey Lewis and the News were recording at the record plant in LA, and working next door to them were the group Busboys, who were cutting the exact same song. It turned out the publisher had sent them the song as well, with Huey recalling how one day he was walking to the studio bathroom and overheard Busboys recording the song. He recalled, "I listened to it and I thought, I still think our version is a little bit better, so I hung with it. But needless to say, I was not very pleased with my publisher."
Heart and soul. She's hot and cold.
Sports had several other standout tracks, including Walking on a Thin Line, which dealt with the struggles of war veterans returning from Vietnam.
Walking on a thin line. Straight off the front.
They also included a cover of Hank Williams' Honky Tonk Blues.
I got the honky-tonk blues.
Huey reflected on the diversity of the record, stating, "The diversity is kind of interesting, and that comes from our taste. A normal producer wouldn't have done that." But the road to get the album out was a little rocky. The day that the band handed in the record to Chrysalis, their label was sold to CBS. Unsure of what would happen with the record and who would release it, the band booked a tour to make some money, jokingly referring to it as Pay the Bills Tour. While they waited for their business issues to get resolved, it also resulted in the band going back into the studio and being able to tweak some songs to their liking. Huey told Grammy.com, "So after about 3 weeks, one night on an overnight trip, I say to the guys, hey, let's put on the record. Let's see what it sounds like. We throw the record up and I go, damn, it's not happening. So I cried problem to our manager. We went back into the studio and we recut Heart of Rock and Roll, I Want a New Drug, Walking on a Thin Line, Bad is Bad, all to a drum machine." Gives it that little modern techno thing. As the label and management listened to the record, they knew it was going to be big already. The label was estimating they had about half a dozen radio hits. Titled Sports, the album was issued on September 15th, 1983 by Chrysalis, at a time when the band was on the road playing really small clubs across the country. The title had no real significance, with Lewis telling an interviewer we couldn't spell weather and that he saw a lot of similarities between sports and music in terms of teamwork, since the band produced their own albums, directed their own videos, and designed their own album covers. The album artwork was Huey's way of going against what he referred to as the Hollywood concept of things, adding, "The image on the album was a lot more real to us than standing bare-chested in front of some sort of foil background." The album was a smash success, topping the Billboard chart by spring of '84, where it stayed on the charts for 158 weeks, and it later went on to sell over 7 million copies in the States. It became Huey Lewis and the News' biggest record of their career. Sports produced a slew of hit singles. The first single, Heart and Soul, peaked at number 8 on the Hot 100 and topped the Top Rock Tracks chart.
She's got it all. Hot loving every night.
I Want a New Drug, the second single, peaked at number 6 on the Hot 100 and topped the US Dance Disco Top 80 chart. The third single, Heart of Rock and Roll, peaked at number 6 on the Hot 100 chart and was nominated for Best Group Video at the MTV VMAs, but had lost to ZZ Top's Legs. The song was also nominated for Record of the Year at the 27th Annual Grammy Awards, but had lost to Tina Turner, What's Love Gotta Do With It. The group performed the song at the ceremony as well.
Now the elbow may be barely breathing, but the heart of rock and roll, heart.
Their third single, If This Is It, once again peaked at number 6 on the Hot 100 chart, and the final single, Walking on a Thin Line, peaked at number 18 on the same chart.
Hey, if this is it, please let me know. There's freaks loose on the streets of the city.
Huey Lewis's videos were all over MTV. Despite the band's success, Huey got an ego check from his dad, who told him that if your song is number 1, it must not be very good, since a lot of great music doesn't get on the radars of a lot of people. Huey was also blunt about the album, stating, "I knew we had 4 or 5 really good songs. In fact, Sports is only about half a dozen songs deep, and then it just falls apart." The album's success saw new opportunities also come the group's way. Huey found himself in a room with Steven Spielberg and his associates talking about their movie Back to the Future. He recalled, "They're telling me about this Marty McFly character played by Michael J. Fox, whose favorite band would be Huey Lewis and the News. So would we write some songs for the movie?" I said, "We don't know how to write songs for movies, but we'll send you the next thing we write," which was The Power of Love. That song went on to top the Hot 100 chart. It was their first song to achieve such a feat. The song was also nominated for an Academy Award. They also offered another song for the end credits, Back in Time.
Power of love. That's the power of love. Gotta get back in time.
The success of Sports did haunt the band when it came to writing their 4th album. Huey remarked, "Yeah, we felt it. It got to the point where we'd worry about every note. I didn't want to leave one bad moment on the tape." The success of the album made Huey realize that he could be a musician now for the rest of his life and survive. Huey Lewis and the News also became one of the early bands who really embraced MTV and owed a lot of their career to the then fledgling network. He recalled, "MTV was huge, and it was a huge thing for us. I mean, it probably hurt our credibility a little bit. I think people still see us as a pop band. I don't think we're a pop band, but whatever. All things being equal, it's nice to have the popularity." Let me know in the comments section which videos you'd like to see me do in the future. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.